seen the long-nailed fingies of the anxiety monsters stay creeping around just right here from my throat at all times. I like forgot because I haven't been very anxious in a while, and then I've been pretty anxious the past like few weeks, almost like the past month. And it's like I forgot that I like had a generalized anxiety disorder diagnosis at one point, but then I went on something, sertraline maybe was what we put me on for that, and it like fixed it for a while. And so then I didn't have that generalized anxiety for like years. And then all of a sudden over the past like month, I've been like, how did I live like this for like all of high school? Like it's been going on for a month now, and I'm like, oh, I gotta fix this now. And it's like I just like had this feeling every day through like the end of high school when I went to a psychiatrist. This just like ultimate and even I think it really started when I was in like 6th grade. So for like, I don't know, 7 years, I was just walking around every day with this like pit of dread in my stomach. And now I don't have that, but now it's back. And I'm like, why are you back?
Yeah, I used to live in like a constant state of worry. I still do. I mean, I was the kind of kid where when I was a kid, my big like fear was like the dog getting out. And so I would be obsessed with just making sure the back door was shut. And like if somebody opened the front door, I would be freaking out the entire time because I'm like, the dog is going to run away. Like, why are you just having the door be open like that? And it would freak me out. I feel like my anxiety has been okay for a while, but then it was not your fault. You did not give me contagious anxiety, but we were texting about anxiety, and then for some reason the other night I just got totally struck by a lot of like pressures of work and life just all coming down on me at once, and I was like, oh my god, everything is just happening so much.
Yeah. Wow, what a bummer opener to our comedy podcast. I don't know, I've cried on this podcast before, so who's to say?
Who's to say? Welcome to Informed Attraction, a podcast hosted by one closeted lesbian and one out theater fan.
What? What do you mean? Which one do you think is which? I have to ask every time.
That's for the viewers to decide.
All right, well, one of us was in a play recently and one of us wasn't, so you decide. I'm Mackenna Goodrich.
I'm Dr. Aubrey Hoffer. So, this is going to be a 2-part series about Rosie O'Donnell. When I was a child, one of my earliest memories is telling my dad that I wanted to change my hair in some way. I think I said that I wanted to dye it red, maybe. And his response was, don't do that, or you'll look like Rosie O'Donnell. And it was the first time I had ever heard her name. And I remember later, when I saw her on TV, I had this association of, this is who my dad doesn't want me to look like. And I had confusing feelings because I was such a fan of everything that I saw her in. Because I was a big fan of the live-action Flintstones movie that she was in. I really liked A League of Their Own. And she was just a part of media that I found really beloved to me in my childhood. And then when I got older, I would see these references to Rosie O'Donnell in other pieces of media, like in The Simpsons or South Park, where she would be oftentimes mocked or satirized, usually for her appearance. But I think that the story is a little bit deeper than that. I really wanted to explore in this series, like, where did this kind of, like, interpretation of Rosie O'Donnell come from?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that ultimately what it reflects is the difficulties of queer women to succeed in a world that is run by men who only reluctantly understand their value or appeal. So this is going to be sort of a profile of Rosie O'Donnell, and it really is trying to ask, what happens when a woman doesn't fit dominant beauty standards, but becomes highly visible?
Mm.
And the answer might be that you have to flee the country and have the president threaten to revoke your citizenship.
Oh, I think this is the whole problem. And this is so embarrassing to admit, but I, for the longest time, I don't know if I thought they were the same person, but I would get facts about them confused, and I still do, with Rosie O'Donnell and Roseanne Barr, who are extremely different. But growing up, I kind of thought they were the same person, I think, and now it's like, I'll get facts about them confused. I know that Rosie O'Donnell is the based one, and Roseanne Barr is the not based one at this point, but it's still, like, even when you said that, it flagged in my head, I was like, why would the president be threatening Rosie O'Donnell? And I was like, oh, yeah. And it's just, I don't know why they occupy like the same dumb corner of my brain, and it's like I have to really put effort into separating them from each other.
So the original intent for this episode was that I was going to do a comparison of Rosie O'Donnell and Roseanne Barr. This might become a like bigger multi-part series where I do that, because a lot of people get Rosie O'Donnell and Roseanne Barr confused, and I think it's because they are occupying a similar space where during around the same time period, they are fat women who are funny in media, and that makes men uncomfortable, so they get mocked and joked about a lot. Rosie O'Donnell's response is to sort of take it in stride, whereas Roseanne plays with it a lot more and is a lot more aggressive about it. But then it's interesting because I think Rosie O'Donnell gets characterized as the more aggressive one, whereas Roseanne gets characterized more as just like kind of like a sloppy, like hillbilly type. I don't know. I think it's really interesting. Both of these women are actually sort of beloved to my childhood, but I decided to focus on Rosie for this first part.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it's just like they do occupy a very they occupied a very similar space, and then I think we have seen the two roads diverge through the political woods, as it were, as time has gone on.
Yeah. So, who is Rosie O'Donnell? Roseanne O'Donnell was born on...
See, your name's Roseanne. It's so confusing.
It is. It is. We got two Rosies. They're both fat. We don't know what to do. It's the 90s.
Yes.
Somebody help us.
Somebody help us.
Roseanne O'Donnell was born March 21st, 1962 in Comac, New York? Comac, New York?
I have no idea.
Somewhere in the middle of New York. And she's an American talk show host, comedian, and actress. She's the third of 5 children of her mother, Roseanne Teresa, and her father, Edward Joseph O'Donnell. One of her siblings is Daniel J. O'Donnell, who was the first openly gay man elected to the New York State Assembly.
Oh, good for him.
Good for him. Rosie O'Donnell had a somewhat difficult childhood. Her father immigrated from Ireland during his childhood. Her mother was Irish American. This kind of explains why she now resides in Ireland. O'Donnell and her siblings were all sexually abused by their father as children, and she talks about her childhood as having a history of, just perpetuation of generational abuse, as well as alcoholism. As a result of this, O'Donnell talks about suffering with mental issues for her entire life, attributing her issues with the sexual abuse that was inflicted on her by her father when she was a child. She's spoken openly about dealing with major depressive disorder, PTSD, anxiety, body image issues, as well as openly talking about taking antidepressants. I also do want to just give a caveat to this episode, right? Like, I'm talking about a real-world person who is still alive and still may do things in life. I'm not trying to make the point here at all that I think Rosie O'Donnell is a perfect or infallible person. I'll get into probably in the second episode, or probably a little bit in this one too, some of the stuff she's done that has been not great. So I don't know. I feel the need to just say that before anyone is like, are you trying to, sanctify Rosie O'Donnell? I'm not trying to do that.
Aubrey preempting for when we find out Rosie O'Donnell's in the Epstein files.
Hey, you never know. We got 500 pages of redacted documents.
Yeah. Oh, did you see that some of them, though, you can, it's what they did is they just did, black highlight on it, so you can copy the text into a different document. Like, the text they didn't actually redact it. They just did, black highlight in a Google Doc over it. And so it's still fully readable if you just copy it into another document.
We live in a fake world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
On March 17th, 1973, 4 days before Rosie O'Donnell's 11th birthday, her mother Roseanne died from breast cancer. So, really difficult childhood situation, right? Like, growing up in a household of abuse, her mother dies at a young age, she's in this environment where her father is this strict Roman Catholic, and she is just, she's going through it, right? All that said, when Rosie attends high school, she is quite successful. She's voted homecoming queen, prom queen, senior class president, and class clown. It's during high school where she really starts to explore her interest in comedy, and she would do skits in front of the school. One of the things she would do would be imitate Gilda Radner's character, Roseanne. She graduates high school.
There's so many okay, so I'm so interested because there's so many ways in which this could go.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is this. Usually with funny women, they were bullied. Yeah. And it's for like their appearance, and so it led to like a coping mechanism. That's not always true, but that's true for a lot of women. And but there's this thing that I think that like what this actually sounds more like to me. And Aubrey, you will know who I'm talking about, who we grew up with. But there was someone who me and Aubrey grew up with who it was like you could never quite be sure if people were making fun of him or if they really liked him. And he like ended up not being voted my prom king, but he like people were chanting his name at my senior prom and were like let down when this like football player won. And so there was this weird thing where like he was a funny guy. He was in like, but it was one of those things that like, you could never quite tell if people were bullying him or if they liked him, but he was always in all of these like popular kids circles for that reason. And I'm wondering if if that was more what was going on with her, or if it was just she was hot and also liked comedy, which is a weird zone that is, I feel like, the smallest percentage of people end up being funny and hot and fine.
Well, I also think, what is the population of Commack, New York? Like, how big was this high school?
How do you spell that?
Commack?
She grew up in Long Island.
Let's see.
Very small. Extremely small.
Population in 1980. Yeah, so like 36,000 people in the whole town.
Yeah, 36,000 now.
Yeah, so probably quite small. I think it's probably quite likely that Rosie O'Donnell is funny. I think it's probably likely that she was having a really difficult home life, and school was probably an escape from that, and being funny and cool at school was probably protective to her in some way. So after graduating in 1980, also, I don't know if I should call her Rosie or O'Donnell throughout this. It feels weird to just keep saying Rosie O'Donnell. I'm just gonna do whatever feels right in that moment.
I would say, so it's an interesting thing because I think it's sort of a sexism thing in some ways that we tend to call women by their first names and men by their last names when referring to them in passing. And it's not like an overt thing, but like, you think about like how often do you hear her referred to as Harris, right? You always heard her referred to as Kamala, but how often do you hear him referred to as Donald? Do you hear him referred to as Trump?
Then I will continue to call her O'Donnell, and we are going to be breaking glass ceilings.
As we always are on this podcast. I'm never having to delete Aubrey's regressive takes.
Never. After graduating in 1980, O'Donnell briefly attends Dickinson College and later transfers to Boston University, but ultimately drops out to pursue doing stand-up comedy. So she starts touring around comedy clubs starting in 1979, and she gets her breakthrough on the TV show Star Search in 1984. For anyone not familiar, Star Search, or Ed McMahon's Star Search, was a TV show hosted by Ed McMahon where contestants would compete in several genres of entertainment. So it's kind of like America's Got Talent, where you have like male singers, female singers, group vocals, dance, comedians, and everyone's competing for a chance to compete the following week.
I just got Ed McMahon and Vince McMahon hella confused, and I was like, what the hell was Vince McMahon doing with a like TV show like that? And then it wasn't. Vince McMahon is the guy who is the co-founder of WWE, whose ex-wife is currently the Secretary of Education.
Yeah. So Rosie's take on the story is that when she's 20, she's doing comedy at some club in Long Island, and Ed McMahon's daughter sees her perform and is like, can you give me your number? My dad is Ed McMahon. And she doesn't believe her, so she's like, yeah, right, and gives her dad's phone number because she just lives at home, and she's like, yeah, whatever. And then 3 days later, a talent booker from Star Search calls out and is like, hey, we're gonna fly you to LA, and Rosie wins like 5 weeks in a row, which gives her really big national exposure.
Yeah.
So after this success, she starts to get some roles on TV sitcoms. Her first role is as Nell Harper's neighbor on the show Give Me a Break in 1986. No, I don't know what that show is. In 1988, she joins the music video station VH1 as a VJ. So like a video DJ. I don't like that we're calling them VJs.
I get it. I understand video jockey. I get what we're going for there, but it does now sound like a little too vagina adjacent.
Yeah, it's a little on the nose. You know?
Yeah. Well, there were male VJs, weren't there?
Well, who's to say who can be a VJ?
I think the people at MTV.
So then she also hosts a series for VH1 called Stand Up Spotlight, which is the showcase for up-and-coming comedians. So, throughout the 80s and into the early 90s, she's doing these appearances on TV, she's hosting a lot of stuff, and in 1992, she co-stars in a Fox network sitcom called Stand By Your Man. The show...
Sorry, before we leave this, I'm like conspiracy theorying out here. Okay. Because in 1994, Joe Rogan had the MTV half-hour comedy. That's not the same thing that Rosie O'Donnell hosted, which was on VH1.
Yeah.
That would have been a hell of a coincidence, wouldn't it have been?
That was, all these people are all existing at the same time. So in 1992, O'Donnell stars in the Fox network sitcom Stand By Your Man. The show absolutely bombs, but at the same time, O'Donnell's film career starts taking off. She made her feature film debut in the movie A League of Their Own. That's a really great baseball movie that has Tom Hanks, Gina Davis, Madonna. Rosie O'Donnell and Madonna are also like lifelong friends, by the way, because they met on this movie and are just still good friends.
Also, absolutely ridiculous that the TV show got canceled after one season. It was so delightful, and I'm still mad about it.
Is the TV show just just the movie but longer?
No, it's a completely like different thing, like set in the same world, but I really liked it, and it was like Darcy Carden was in it, and who else was in it? It was like a bunch of people who were like now like okay, yeah. So it was Shantae Adams, Abby Jacobson, Darcy Carden, like, and it was so good. And then they canceled it. They cited the Hollywood strike as a reason for it, but it was like I don't know. It was a bummer. I really liked that show. It was really delightful. It has like a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, it was a really well-reviewed show that only got a single season, I'm sure, for political reasons, honestly.
Too sapphic and probably not enough people tuning in.
I think a lot of people watched it. I don't think it had... Because that's the thing with... Oh, there's a show that was super popular on Netflix this year. Boot Camp? Boot? Something like that? Boot Netflix show? Boots. Yeah, there was this really popular show on Netflix this year, Boots, that was about queer Marine Corps stuff, and it feels very clear to me that it was probably canceled because the White House didn't like that there was a gay military show on that was extremely, extremely popular this year.
Damn. Well, we definitely don't live in an age of mass censorship. Everything is normal, and especially our president, Donald Trump, who will not be a character later on in this very episode.
No way!
Yeah.
Oh, wait, duh. I was like from in the 90s he's gonna be no, he's a character in the now, and then in the now he's a character.
Well, he's also a character in the 90s.
Okay, so this is what I'm... There you go.
It's all coming together.
Just like he was a character in the hit film Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
My God. So throughout Rosie O'Donnell's film career, she really takes on kind of an eclectic range of roles. So she's in Sleepless in Seattle as Meg Ryan's character's best friend. She's Betty Rubble in The Flintstones with John Goodman. She is one of Timothy Hutton's co-stars in Beautiful Girls. She's a federal agent who's like comedically paired with Dan Aykroyd in the movie Exit to Eden. She's also the voice of Turk in Tarzan.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually like a decent amount of range to the roles that Rosie O'Donnell played. Like, she was really not relegated to like ugly side character. She also, in the roles that she played, is really never considered like ugly. I guess like, you know, I kind of with A League of Their Own, I guess, but there's another character that I think paints that picture more clearly. I think Rosie O'Donnell is usually just like, I'm kind of the fast talking girl on the side. I'm not the main character, but I'm telling it like it is over here.
She's the New York one.
Yeah.
Continue.
Mackenna, what pieces of Rosie O'Donnell media are you familiar with? Are any of these like relevant to you? Have you ever what do you remember ever seeing her in?
I saw A League of Their Own and The Flintstones when I was a child. We're talking sub 10 years old. I would say even younger. Like, I feel like I mostly have memories of those movies from when I was living in Montana, so I was probably sub 8. I was probably like 7 years old when I saw both those movies. And then I remember her on The View.
Did she ever stick out to you in any way, or was she just kind of like there for you? Because to me, she always was so... I was always very enamored by her, and my attention was usually on her.
No, I mean, I don't remember. I remember her being in A League of Their Own.
Yeah.
I did not remember that she was in the Flintstones movie, which is crazy, but like, I just didn't remember that. And then I remember her being in A League of Their Own, but I have so limited memories of that movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's like it's, you know, when you like can picture a movie's like aesthetic in your brain and some of the people who were in it, but if someone was like outline anything more than like the general plot, like I couldn't do that. And so I think that's it, because I can't think of her like on anything else except for The View.
Yeah, and to her own credit, right? Like, Rosie O'Donnell was never really trying to position herself as like, I want to be an award-winning actress. It was basically, I am a funny woman and I'm kind of doing whatever funny women do. If that's doing stand-up, it's doing stand-up. If it's being in movies, it's being in movies. If it's being on TV shows as a host, it's being on TV shows as a host.
Yeah.
Just to end the little section about Rosie O'Donnell's film career, 2 roles she was almost considered for. One was Mary Sanderson in Hocus Pocus.
Who plays that?
Kathy Najimy?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
She claimed that she turned down the offer because she didn't want to portray a frightening evil witch.
Interesting.
Second role that she was considered for was Elaine on Seinfeld.
Oh, fascinating.
I think this would have been fucking awesome. I think it would have completely changed who the Elaine character is, and would have just been it would have been Jerry, George, and Kramer who just hang out with a lesbian.
Yeah, exactly. It just would be a completely different like, it just like yes, Julia Louis-Dreyfus and, you know, Rosie O'Donnell were sort of coming up in comedy around the same time, but they have diametrically different vibes.
It would have changed the entire vibe of Seinfeld, but again, not in a way that I think would be unpleasant.
No, but it would just be a different show. Like, I think about, like, okay, like, if you tried to insert Rosie O'Donnell in as the main character in Veep, and it's like, that's a different president. Yeah. It's not how Julia Louis-Dreyfus plays that character on Veep, the same way that, like, you just couldn't keep Elaine the way that she is if it's Rosie O'Donnell.
I think I'm also endeared to Rosie O'Donnell because I think that if I was a Hollywood actress, I honestly think I would occupy the exact same space as Rosie O'Donnell.
This is so funny. You said this about Molly Shannon last time.
Because there's a lot of women who are just living the life that I should have.
Oh, okay.
So O'Donnell adopts her first child, Parker, as an infant in 1995. This is important to note because Rosie O'Donnell is a lesbian. She is not out to the public until 2002. At the time when she adopts her first child, she's also single. She doesn't meet her first wife, Kelly Carpenter, until a few years later, and then around sometime, I think like 1998, Kelly also adopts Parker. So the whole time where Rosie O'Donnell, for the most part, is in these movies doing a lot of the stuff that I'm about to talk about, she is a closeted lesbian with essentially a like wife and baby.
Gotcha.
So after all of these like really successful television and film roles that really introduce O'Donnell to a larger national audience, she starts to host her own syndicated daytime talk show, The Rosie O'Donnell Show, which runs from 1996 to 2002 and won several daytime Emmy Awards. A couple notes about the sort of tone of the Rosie O'Donnell show and the way Rosie O'Donnell was viewed culturally at this time. When she had her own talk show, O'Donnell was literally referred to as the Queen of Nice. This is not ironic. This is like genuinely she is called the Queen of Nice because she's considered just likable and non-controversial. She's not out, so the majority of her show is just her being like really nice to guests and like being funny. She does this whole bit where she talks about having a big crush on Tom Cruise, and she talks about how she's in love with Tom Cruise, and she like fires cush balls into the crowd. Like, people really like her. I would compare it to like the way people really thought about Ellen before we found out everything about Ellen.
Sure.
Also, probably a good thing to note here that over her career, O'Donnell has developed a reputation for raising funds and her own philanthropy and charitable causes. So, like, for example, in 1996, she gets a $3 million advance to write a memoir, and she uses all of the money from that advance to create a foundation called For All Kids, which helps to institute national standards for daycare across the country. To this day, the For All Kids Foundation has awarded more than $22 million in early childhood care and education program grants to over 900 nonprofit organizations. So, big charity, doing a lot of stuff, raising a lot of money to help children across the US. In 1997, Scope Mouthwash runs an ad where they refer to Rosie O'Donnell as unkissable.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah. So they basically do this like campaign where it's considered a terrible PR blunder, by the way. Like, people are like, this ad is fucking terrible. It's really dehumanizing. It's really mean. In response...
And she wasn't like in on it?
No.
Oh my god, that's horrible.
Yeah. And her response to that is that she partners with Listerine, who donated bottles of mouthwash to the studio, and basically they do a promotion where every time a guest on the Rosie O'Donnell show kisses Rosie, they donate $1,000. And basically, she does this, like, the entire time her show is on, and Listerine donates over $350,000 as part of this.
Which means 350 people kissed Rosie O'Donnell.
More than each...
Someone who's allegedly unkissable.
Each one got 1,000. So that's more than 350.
No, it's not.
What?
No, it's not.
No.
350 times 1,000 is 350,000.
But I'm so attractive.
I'm just gonna remind everyone in this moment, one of us has a PhD, and it's not the one who's talking right now. I don't have a doctor in my name.
You know what? I don't do that.
You run stats for a living!
And you know what you don't have to do when you're doing like mixed linear models is basic multiplication.
Yeah, you're right.
I basically do coding. Like, I'm not really doing math.
Yeah. No, I know.
I'm getting a computer.
I took psych stats in college.
So New York City is the home base of the Rosie O'Donnell show, and Rosie O'Donnell is a huge fan of Broadway musicals and plays, and so one hallmark of the show is that she oftentimes would have like current shows on Broadway. She would have the cast members on as guests. She would encourage the audience to go see shows. She would premiere production numbers and promote shows with ticket giveaways, really just trying to do a lot to like get people out into Broadway to go see shows.
About the art, going to my favorite websites, abouttheartist.com, and then we're just going to look up Rosie O'Donnell.
What is this website?
Well, it tells you what theater productions people have been in. So, Rosie O'Donnell played Betty Rizzo in Grease on Broadway. She also was a replacement for the Cat in the Hat in Seussical on Broadway. She played the leading player in Pippin for a Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS concert staging of Pippin. She was Golda in Fiddler on the Roof also on Broadway.
That is a crazy poll.
Yep. She was Pauline in No No Nanette at New York City Center's Encore series, a place where I work. She was in Love Lots and What I Wore. It doesn't say who she played, though. I think that's an off-Broadway. She was in a stage reading of a play called Hollywood Nurses at Playwrights Horizons as the MC and narrator. And she was in a concert staging of The Music Man as Mrs. Peru at the Eisenhower Theater at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. I will not be calling it by its other name.
No, we will be dead naming.
Yes.
In 1997, O'Donnell releases a children's book called Kids Are Punny, Jokes Sent by Kids to the Rosie O'Donnell Show, which contains jokes that she received from children. She releases a sequel the following year, and there's an HBO special made based on the books. So you might be wondering, hey, what changed in her persona from this very subdued, nice lady who the whole culture is like, wow, this is just a nice lady who gives a lot to charity and her show is so pure, to being considered a beacon of feminist outrage?
See, I was wondering if she was Jewish because she played Golda in The Fiddler on the Roof. No, not in fact.
No.
But it was, yeah.
Roman Catholic, born and raised.
I don't know the difference between the Catholicisms.
Eh.
I know there's a pope.
Yeah, a pope, there's some little guys, there's some drinks, and
I went to 2 Catholic weddings, one that was the full mass and one that wasn't, and let me say, I preferred the one that was not the full mass.
Yeah, I mean, my husband was, like, raised Catholic and went to Catholic school when he was, like, an itty-bitty kid, and I don't know, I just remember one time I was like, oh, if I go to church with your parents, do I get the little cracker? And he was like, no. And I was like, I don't get the little cracker? And he said, no, you're not baptized. And I was like, wow, that's really fucked up.
Like the movie Conclave, though.
He fell asleep during Conclave. I watched Conclave.
I don't trust Josh.
Yeah, you'd be surprised what he can fall asleep to.
Sorry, Aubrey, you were wondering if me alongside the audience were wondering about what changed in her public persona to lead to her to the parts later after the nice lady part. And you know, Aubrey, I was distracted by Googling, is Rosie O'Donnell Jewish? But now I am wondering that question.
Well, the answer was Columbine.
I actually straight up was not expecting that.
Yeah, now we're going to talk about Columbine. Not extensively, but essentially after the Columbine shootings, O'Donnell becomes an outspoken supporter of gun control, and she becomes a major figure in the Million Mom March, which is a bunch of moms who are, advocating for stricter gun control. One quote from her, to just illustrate this point, is during an April 19th broadcast of her show, she says, "You are not allowed to own a gun, and if you do own a gun, I think you should go to prison." So she just kind of starts going full nuclear, and everyone's just like, so, I mean, if it was me, I'd be like, you know what? Fucking based. Yeah. If it's somebody like my dad, they're like, that's a bitch. What a lot of people think was a moment where the scale started to tip against Rosie as a public figure is in a May 1999 episode of The Rosie O'Donnell Show. This is a month after the Columbine shootings. She has an interview with Tom Selleck. Tom Selleck is there to promote his movie The Love Letter, and essentially Rosie starts to talk to him about a recent unpaid commercial that he did for the NRA. And essentially what this NRA ad is it's a print ad for the NRA featuring Tom Selleck that has a picture of him with a rifle slung across his shoulder, and the writing underneath says, "Shooting teaches young people good things." This ad comes out a month after the Columbine shooting.
So that's bad.
Yeah. And
that feels like maybe the NRA shouldn't have run that ad a month after the Columbine shooting.
Yeah. And she's like, hey, that's pretty fucked up. And to be clear, Rosie O'Donnell is not the only person who's like, hey, Tom Selleck, that's fucked up. A lot of people are like, hey, Tom Selleck, this ad is fucked up. Hey, it's kind of fucked up you're involved with the NRA. And so Tom Selleck was kind of under heat at the time that he goes on Rosie O'Donnell, which is supposed to be kind of like a fluff piece to promote his movie. And instead, Rosie O'Donnell kind of doubles down and starts pressing him about it.
Yeah. Also, I don't feel like we need to do this, but just in case, I don't know, maybe there are some people who are extremely young listening to this podcast. Hello, young Gen Z. For those who don't know, Columbine was like sort of the big first school shooting in the United States, and it was Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold murdered 13 students and a teacher. And then they killed themselves at the end. And it's the reason why I wasn't allowed to wear a trench coat in high school, I'm pretty sure. And it was also, they like attempted to bomb the school too. Like it was a nightmare. It was a full-fledged nightmare. And like, obviously now, if you're a person with empathy and a good heart, you're horrified by mass shootings at high schools and elementary schools and universities and all places, but like, you know, especially when children are involved. But in 1999, it wasn't the way that it is now, where it's like they're happening multiple times a year. So this was like a big, like, kind of watershed moment where it's like these two young boys took guns and shot their classmates.
If you email us at informedattraction@gmail.com, I'll watch Bowling for Columbine and talk about Michael Moore.
Oh, okay. That I thought you were going to do something scary, but that actually would be a good thing for us to do.
No, I think that would be a great episode because similarly to Rosie O'Donnell, Michael Moore got a lot of really weird treatment in the media about his appearance when he made a documentary that is like, honestly fucking goated, that was like, hey guys, school shootings and having no gun control is really bad for America.
Yeah. So people are mad that she presses Tom Selleck about this horrific ad that I mean, it feels like that's such an easy dub for him too, to be like, yeah, it was an ill-timed ad.
Right. So basically they get into this conversation, and at the end of it, Rosie O'Donnell says, you know, hey, this conversation has not gone the way I had hoped. If you felt insulted by my questions, I apologize. This was not a personal attack. I just wanted to bring up this subject because it's in the minds of so many today. So even at the end of this portion, right, she's saying, hey, like, I'm sorry if I offended you.
Yeah.
This creates like some public discourse because at the time, Rosie O'Donnell was a multi-million-dollar paid spokesperson for Kmart, and Kmart was the largest volume firearms retail in the United States. So Rosie, discontinues her contract with Kmart as their spokesperson this year, mainly because gun enthusiasts start complaining that she shouldn't be a spokesperson for essentially the largest gun retailer. O'Donnell does counter that Kmart sells hunting rifles, not handguns or assault weapons, and does so legally, which she supports. If anyone also is like, hey, what the fuck was Kmart? Kmart was a store where you could both buy clothes and guns.
Well, it's like Kmart was like a Walmart.
Yeah.
It was also like really big for, specifically, I remember like Kmart was really big for like the place that you would go to get your like school uniform. Mm-hmm. For places that had, you know, like they sold school uniforms. So it's like, yeah, get your guns, get your school uniform.
Yeah. So basically, she's got this contract with Kmart. All the gun enthusiasts are like, she shouldn't be the spokesperson for Kmart. So she decides that she's no longer going to be the spokesperson. Some people try to twist the narrative and say that Kmart terminated the contract. Kmart denies this. They say O'Donnell herself decides to stop being the spokesperson. This is the start of a lot of gun enthusiasts trying to gotcha Rosie O'Donnell. So, in 2001, O'Donnell's bodyguard applies for a concealed firearm permit because O'Donnell says that the security firm contracted by Warner Brothers requested that her bodyguard has a gun, and that also she gets a lot of threats to her and her family, and that she would like her bodyguard to be armed. And a lot of gun enthusiasts are like, oh, but you said you were anti-gun.
Also, sorry, this is me showing my age, by the way. Me being like, oh, it was like the first big school shooting in the United States. I don't think that's totally wrong. It was the deadliest school shooting until the Stoneman Douglas shooting. But I'm on list of school shootings in the United States before 2000s, and oh boy. Some of these other ones have some pretty high victim tolls.
Yeah.
This has been it's almost like this has been a problem for a really long time and no one has really done anything about it, and it's bad.
Yeah. Only country where this just continues to happen.
Uh-huh. Oh, boy. Howdy. Okay, anyway, sorry.
So, around this time, early 2000s, O'Donnell and her wife Kelly take in a foster child named Mia and have the intentions to adopt Mia. At the time, they're living in the state of Florida. The state of,
How did they end up in Florida?
because this was around the time when Rosie's show is over, and so then she moves to Florida. So she's doing the show in New York. It ends in 2002. She moves to Florida. They take in this foster child and are like, let's expand our family.
Yeah, she did the New York to Florida pipeline. I'm with you now.
So the state of Florida removes Mia from their home because of homophobia. They don't want this foster child to have two moms. And this is the big motivator for Rosie O'Donnell deciding to come out, because she basically comes out to say, I had a child taken away from me, and I would like to be an advocate to end the Florida law prohibiting same-sex family adoption.
Yeah.
I jumped ahead to 2002. I do also want to say that after 9/11, just in terms of like Rosie O'Donnell's kind of philanthropic endeavors, Broadway and tourism to New York City was obviously down quite a bit post 9/11, and many shows were in danger of closing. O'Donnell was among the first in the entertainment field to really encourage viewers to sit down and support the performing arts, and she herself donated $1 million for aid and rescue efforts, and as well as various donations to like Broadway and artistic organizations in the city.
Right.
So, and again, like, I'm not trying to paint this as, like, Rosie O'Donnell is, like, this, like, amazing saint. I'm just trying to say that, like, in the, like, history of things that she has done, like, you really can't argue that she hasn't donated a lot of money to charity. She has donated a lot of money to charity.
Yeah.
So O'Donnell comes out as a lesbian in 2002, and she does this like 2 months before the end of her talk show. And essentially what starts this is that in January 2002, she makes an appearance on the sitcom Will and Grace, where she plays a lesbian mother. So she's on the show Will and Grace. She plays this lesbian who has a kid, and everyone's kind of like, was that like a coming out? Was that like an official coming out? And it's kind of like she's not saying it, but then a month later, she does an act for the ovarian cancer research benefit, and she officially comes out. Her official coming out statement is, quote, I'm a dyke. I don't know why people make such a big deal about the gay thing. People are confused. They're shocked. Like, this is a big revelation to somebody?
Awesome.
Yeah, so again, kind of base. So she really says that the only reason why she chooses to come out is because she wants to bring awareness to queer adoption issues. So as part of this, she does her first kind of official interview about being a lesbian with Diane Sawyer on an episode of Primetime Thursday.
Literally classic.
Amazing, right? And she chooses Diane Sawyer, so she chooses Diane Sawyer specifically because she wants Diane Sawyer to do an investigative piece about Florida's ban on gay adoption. And basically she tells Sawyer that if you do this, I will talk about my life and how this case pertains to me. So Diane Sawyer complies. She does a story about two gay men in Florida who faced having a foster child who they raised removed from their home, and state law wouldn't let them adopt because Florida banned gay couples and lesbian couples from adopting. And as sort of the like quid pro quo. Is that what I'm thinking?
Yep.
As the quid pro quo, Rosie O'Donnell is like, okay, cool, now I'll do this interview where I'm like, I'm a lesbian. And because that was just a thing people did in the 2000s. When somebody came out, everyone would be like, why? How? Yeah. What happened? Interesting thing is that O'Donnell gets a little bit of backlash from queer activists about coming out, because she had done this joke for years on the show where she joked about being in love with Tom Cruise, and a lot of people were like, that was deceptive of you to do.
That's so stupid.
Yeah.
We're still weird about gay people, but we were so weird about gay people.
Well, this is like from other gay people, and
I include other gay people in this. There's so much shit like this about like if you're actually gay, blah 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 blah. It's all I like. watching people try to like investigate whether these actors on Heated Rivalry are gay is, and like watching like these boys' like YouTube videos from when they were kids, and I'm just like, I don't like, why are we doing, and whatever. This is a very like 2025 mindset about it, but I'm just sort of like, I don't think we need to be outing people. It's okay.
It's yeah, that's.
I also think that making a joke about being in love with Tom Cruise, an extremely famous man, doesn't, like, she could have been an out lesbian and still been making that joke because it's a bit. She was doing a bit.
She does this joke in her act where she talks about it, and she says, I said I wanted him to mow my lawn and bring me lemonade. I never said I wanted to blow him.
That's good.
I like that.
I like that. It's funny.
She got bars. She got bars. So after her show ends and after she comes out, O'Donnell returns to stand-up comedy. She cuts her hair in this very, like, cunty, like, she says she's trying to mimic Helen Terry, who's a backup singer for Culture Club.
Okay.
More on some of the, like, charity that she does after the Rosie O'Donnell show ends. So O'Donnell and her wife Kelly, they collaborate with artistic director Lori Klinger to create Rosie's Broadway Kids, which is dedicated to providing free instruction in music and dance to New York City public schools and students. It's an organization that serves more than 4,500 teachers, students, and their families at 21 schools. It has programs available in Harlem, Midtown West, Chelsea, the Lower East Side, the East Village, and Chinatown. All of the net profits from her second memoir, Celebrity Detox, go to Rosie's Broadway Kids. So, again, just, like, times where she could be, like, making a bunch of money or doing different things, she is instead using the money that she is getting to try to create philanthropic endeavors and give to the community that she feels supported by.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of skipped this part of her story. Rosie also, for a while, has a magazine. It's called Rosie. It's meant to be a competitor to Oprah's O magazine.
I was gonna say, what does this have to do with Oprah?
Basically, there was this magazine that was kind of going under, and then they decided to rebrand it with, like, making it a, like, Rosie type magazine. And there's a little bit of back and forth because the magazine at first is very successful because they're talking about issues that are important to Rosie, like fostering children and, like, stuff like that. And eventually, though, it seems like the board of the magazine are more conservative than Rosie is. And Rosie's like, I want to kind of push boundaries. I want articles that are in these more different political directions. And the board is kind of like, no, like, we need to keep it more lifestyle centric. And eventually, the magazine folds in 2003.
Okay.
And essentially, O'Donnell and the publishers sue each other for breach of contract. Because essentially, Rosie, when the magazine is not going in the direction that she wants, she removes herself from the publication. And the publishers argue that this is a breach of contract. And this, I'm talking about this because this trial gets a ton of press coverage. And oftentimes, O'Donnell would give these brief press interviews outside of the courtroom, responding to various allegations and stuff that had been talked about in court that day.
Yeah.
This is where we'll get into some of the morally dubious things. One particular note here was a former magazine colleague and breast cancer survivor who testified that O'Donnell said to her on the phone that people who lie get sick and they get cancer, and if they keep lying, they get it again. which I shouldn't laugh. It's fucked up to say that to somebody, much less an employee. But is it kind of funny? It is. She, the next day, O'Donnell apologizes and she says, I'm sorry I hurt her the way I did. That was not my intention. Just imagine you're talking to somebody who had cancer and you're like, yeah, you're a fucking liar. And people who lie get cancer. And if you keep lying, you're gonna get cancer again.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just...
It's fucked up.
Also because it's like this wasn't a famous person. This was just another colleague at the magazine. And so it's like you have this extremely famous woman dunking on this just like magazine colleague who survived breast cancer. It's oof.
Yeah.
Very, very tough.
Eventually, the case gets dismissed, and the judge says that neither side will receive damages.
Okay.
That same year, O'Donnell and her wife Kelly, they partner with travel entrepreneur Greg Kaminsky to launch Our Family Vacations, which caters to queer families as, quote, the very first all gay and lesbian family vacation packages where gays and lesbians can bring their kids, friends, and their parents. Rosie's not involved in the day-to-day management of this organization, but she basically does a lot of the creative aspects of the advertising and the marketing materials, and she's really the one who creates the idea for having a, like, family-oriented queer, like, cruise vacation package, which, you know what? Fuck it. Sure, it didn't exist. She made it happen.
Yeah, great. Whatever. Diversifying streams of income. That's what all the alpha male bros are always talking about. Do your gay cruise line, Rosie O'Donnell.
They launched their first cruise on July 11th, 2004, with 1,600 passengers, which includes 600 children. In addition to the traditional entertainment and recreational activities one would do on a cruise, they also partnered with Provincetown's Family Pride, which was a Washington, D.C. based organization that advocated for queer families, and they co-hosted discussions about adoption, surrogacy, and everything else that would be helpful to gay parenting. So basically it was this cruise where it's like, if you were a queer family, you could go on this cruise and do cruise things, and then also have, like, actually helpful information about queer parenting and resources, right? And you're also connecting with other queer families. Like, it's a cool thing that happens.
I'm really curious. This is just me being very curious about. I would have assumed that Provincetown's Family Pride would have been based in Provincetown, but which is like a historically like queer beach to go to, P-Town. So I am surprised to hear that it is Washington D.C. based.
Yeah, but maybe it is because it's just easier to, like, because DC, there's so many organizations that are based out of DC. I'm
sure.
So it might just be easier to run it out of DC. I don't really know why.
Yeah, I guess. Sure. I was like, you were like, I heard Provincetown, and I was like, yeah, P-Town, and then I heard DC based, and I went, hello?
All Aboard, Rosie's Family Cruise is a documentary about the trip, and it gets nominated for 3 Emmy Awards, and it's the reviews of it are quite good. O'Donnell basically says, I didn't realize that this was going to be such a magical experience. People who had never met another gay family were meeting other families on this trip, and it was really powerful. So that's just kind of like a cool thing, like, I don't know, connecting other queer people to each other at a time where it's, like, still illegal in, like, the entire country for the most part to exist.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I like that.
Let's see. Do you know the musical Taboo?
Yeah.
Rosie brought it to Broadway in 2003.
Good for her. Is that the Boy George
Yeah,
one?
What do you know about this?
Yeah. I know that it's a musical that Boy George was in, and when I used to use Pandora, it used to get pushed onto my Pandora all the time, but I literally couldn't tell you anything about it or, like, name any of the songs. But yeah, I think maybe Boy George helped write it.
So basically, it's a musical that's set in an abandoned London warehouse, and it tells the story of a group of people, some are real, some are fake, who were connected to the new romantic club scene with the opening of the now legendary club Taboo, which is what it's named after. Boy George is featured as one of the club's regulars, and essentially Rosie sees this show in London and is like, this shit fucking hits. And so she hires Charles Bush to rewrite the book, and she wants a story to be bitchier and more focused about Boy George. So it basically becomes what you're describing, Mackenna, which is more of like a, like, Boy George kind of biopic musical. It runs for about 100 performances and is considered mostly bad. There's different jokes on The Simpsons that are kind of, like, mocking this endeavor of Rosie O'Donnell's. Like, it's a very kind of like esoteric joke, and I found out about this because I was like, what does this joke mean? Because it's like Ned Flanders in one of the Treehouse of Horror Simpsons episodes, he just makes a joke about how like Rosie O'Donnell doesn't produce good Broadway shows, and I was like, what is like the meaning of this? It's so random. And that's the origin of that. You know who was in those 100 performances of Taboo that were considered mostly bad? Is one of my faves, Raul Esparza.
Also one of my faves. Sent me my favorite email of all time.
Really? I didn't know this.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was reading for the 24-hour plays, we'd asked if Raul could, I can't remember if it was for the Broadway show, if it was for the 24-hour monologues, but we had offered something to him, and he replied with an email that was basically like, I'm in Iceland, the trolls are getting to me, and it was really, really funny. And then I met him years later, and I was talking to him about it, and he was like, oh yeah, I was going crazy.
So what you're saying is that we do have a way to contact Raul Esparza.
So, I mean, I don't have that email anymore.
Hello, it's me, Aubrey, again. I'd like you to come on Informed Attraction, and we will talk about every character you've ever played.
Yeah.
So in 2004, O'Donnell finally officially marries Kelly, who I've been calling her wife this entire time. She does eventually become her wife, okay? And she is her first wife. They get married 2 weeks after Mayor Gavin Newsom authorizes the granting of marriage licenses to same-sex couples. Her decision to marry Kelly in San Francisco was to be a show of defiance against George W. Bush over his support for the federal marriage amendment.
Mm-hmm.
They get married by a lesbian named Susan Leal, and they are serenaded by the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus.
Slay.
Yeah. Their marriage, unfortunately, legally ends in August of 2004, when it was among the thousands that were voided by the California Supreme Court. My understanding is basically same-sex marriage licenses are able to be, like, obtained, and then the California Supreme Court is like, just kidding, and then all these people who are married are now no longer legally married because people are homophobic, and it's shitty.
Yep.
And then we get to 2006. From 2006 to 2007, O'Donnell endured a controversial run as one of the moderators of the daytime talk show The View.
Which is what I remember her from.
It's crazy to me she's only on The View for 1 year.
Yeah, to me she was on it forever.
So many things happen in this year.
And I feel like it was kind of at, like, in a weird way, like the height of The View's power in many ways.
So in September 2006, O'Donnell replaces Meredith Vieira as a co-host and moderator of The View, which is...
That's so crazy. They were like, you know who would be a good replacement for Meredith Vieira? Rosie O'Donnell.
Well, it's because the show isn't doing very well.
Yeah, that's
For anyone who's not familiar with The View, it's basically... It gets parodied in media a lot as just, like, multiple women yelling at the same time.
Yep.
It's a talk show where it's, I think, like five women are all kind of just talking about various topics, sometimes lifestyle stuff, sometimes political stuff, just kind of what's going on in the world. At the same time that Rosie is hired, Star Jones, who is a co-host of the show, she quits. And many people speculate that this is because Jones's conservative views would be in constant tension with O'Donnell's more liberal counterpoint. O'Donnell also had made comments about Jones's rapid weight loss, alluding that it was probably through gastric bypass surgery rather than dieting and exercise as Jones had insisted, which also fed speculation about the tension between them. Jones later confirmed that she did have bariatric surgery. So Rosie O'Donnell was right. Again, is it a fucked up thing to do? Yeah. Essentially, O'Donnell is credited with keeping the show's buzz factor up. She tries to make The View more news-focused, although it still embraces a lot of the fluff of daytime TV talk shows. Despite an overall downward trend for most daytime broadcast shows during this period, ratings of The View rose 27% during the year that O'Donnell was on The View. The show was the fourth most watched in all of daytime in the key demographic of women ages 18 to 49, and it scored record ratings in the total viewer category with an average of 3.4 million viewers per episode, up 15% from the same time the prior year. One of the things that O'Donnell does is moderate the opening Hot Topics portion of the show, where news items are discussed. This gives the show a more political slant, and she and fellow comic Joy Behar often gave strong opinions against George Bush's domestic and foreign policies, including the Iraq War. And as a conservative counterpoint, Elizabeth Hasselbeck would usually support the Bush administration's policies, and then they would get into this, like, give and take and back and forth.
Sure.
So this is where I'm going to do a little bit of, here's a good thing Rosie did, here's a bad thing Rosie did. And remember, this is all happening in the span of 1 year.
Yeah, like one season of the show, right? Like, she was only on the show for Or
She might have been on multiple seasons.
I'm trying to see based on this chart, but they have her in the middle, so it's hard for me to read.
I know.
Well, she was on a season, and then on another season later.
Yeah. So first, in 2007, there is a report about the opening of the Children's Plaza and Family Center in Renaissance Village, which is a FEMA trailer park in Louisiana. This is an emergency response initiative of Rosie's For All Kids Foundation, with the help of many local nonprofit organizations and for-profit businesses, with all of the efforts going to assist families displaced by Hurricane Katrina. So first good thing, right, is Hurricane Katrina happens, and one of Rosie O'Donnell's organizations immediately gets into place to provide support to the people who are really suffering at this time.
Yeah.
In the same month, Rosie O'Donnell outs Clay Aiken.
I didn't know that.
So here's what happens. So basically, Clay Aiken is on Live with Regis and Kelly.
Wait, also we should say who Clay Aiken is, because that is definitely someone who people younger than us have no idea who we're talking about.
Clay Aiken is an obviously gay man who was on... He's openly gay now!
Yeah, I know. What I was going to say is Clay Aiken finished in second place on the second season of American Idol, and that's what he was famous for.
Yeah. So, Clay Aiken is on an episode of Live with Regis and Kelly, which is a, daytime talk show with Kelly Ripa and Regis Philbin. And essentially what happens is that they do some kind of joke, and essentially Clay Aiken jokingly puts his hand over Kelly Ripa's mouth. Like, she says something and he kind of jokingly is like, oh, don't say that. And then Ripa pulls his hand away and says, I don't know where that hand's been, honey. So then on The View, Rosie O'Donnell comments about Kelly Ripa's comments, and she says that was homophobic. And essentially, so what she says specifically is, if that was a straight man, if that was a cute man, if that was a guy where she didn't question his sexuality, it would have been a different thing. Kelly Ripa is watching this segment of The View and calls into the studio and and basically says, I'm not being homophobic, it was flu season. Here's the thing though. People crunch the numbers. People realize that Kelly had put her hand over Regis's mouth as a joke before during non-flu season. So she was probably just being kind of homophobic. So was Kelly Ripa being homophobic? Yes. But also, Rosie O'Donnell was like, hey, it's homophobic that you did this. Meanwhile, Clay Aiken is like, hey, I'm not out. And I am really devastated right now because I outed myself to you in private, Rosie O'Donnell. And then you now on your show are saying an experience I had publicly was homophobia, and I am now, kind of outed as a gay man.
Yeah.
Rosie tries...
Because he didn't come out until, a year later, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is kind of people describe this as Rosie outing him as though before this no one had any inkling that Clay Aiken might be gay. I think that for some people, this was oh, maybe. So,
yeah.
and it's a fucked up thing to do, especially when it's they knew each other socially, and she knew that he was gay and not out.
Yeah.
She did respond to this by connecting Clay Aiken with her publicist, and it seems like in the years after this occurred that they have, made amends with each other, and that, apologies have been made and people have been forgiven.
Yeah.
Other things that Rosie O'Donnell did. She made a bunch of comments where people thought that she was being anti-Catholic. So basically on The View, they were talking about the Supreme Court's ruling in Gonzalez v. Carhart, which is a decision upholding the Partial Birth Abortion Ban Act. And essentially, Rosie O'Donnell is just like, how about a separation of church and state? If men could get pregnant, abortion would be a sacrament. And a lot of people are like, hey, I didn't like that you did that. Interestingly, a lot of comments that Rosie would make would lead to her being recirculated by other media outlets, which was oftentimes surprising to her. So, like, conservative media outlets and Republican pundits would, like, use clips of Rosie O'Donnell. And O'Donnell was like, hey, like, I don't like that you're focusing on my comments and talking about it on the news instead of, like, actual news shit. Which, to anyone listening today, you're like, isn't that just what the news does? Well, well, back in the day, guys, they didn't.
Back in the days, you didn't rip a 60-minute segment off the air 24 hours, or like literally minutes before the day of, because you needed Stephen Miller to comment on concentration camps.
Then, another bad thing, again, same year, oftentimes within weeks of each other, O'Donnell uses a series of ching-chongs to imitate a newscaster in China. Vanessa Hua.
So that's really bad.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah, that's really bad. That's, you know, that's just straight blatant racism.
It's just blatant racism. Vanessa Hua of the San Francisco Chronicle is like, hey, Rosie, that was really disappointing. You're a champion of queer rights. Like, you should probably not be being openly racist. Rosie responds to this by apologizing publicly to who she offended, but here's her fucking quotes from her apology. She says, some people have told me it's as bad as the N-word. I was like, really? I didn't know that. Then she said, there's a good chance I'll do something like this again, probably in the next week, but not on purpose. It's just because that's how my brain works.
Sorry, so they had her, like, was the person who she was responding to there?
No, this was like, basically a reporter is like, hey, Rosie O'Donnell, this was fucked up, you did this, and then she does like a public apology that's like just broadly, hey,
okay.
sorry,
I was like,
this. Which is like a
because there's that like thing after, this is so different, but like after World War II where they like had a general like apologize to a Japanese guy, and it was like, that's so weird, don't do that, like don't like force people to like be apologized to by white people. That's very strange, and definitely more for the white person than for the person of color they offended. And so I was really hoping it wasn't that.
No, it was not that. It was just a broad apology. Time magazine reports on this and calls it a pseudo apology. A bunch of people are like, she didn't really apologize, because she didn't, and she should have. She later wrote in one of her memoirs that she was regretful about how she handled the situation, and that she wished that she had been more pure in her public apology instead of being the way that she had been.
Also, just is so fucking random. It's because, so this happened because they were showing a video. She was commenting on a visit by Danny DeVito, who seemed drunk, by being like, oh, like, can you imagine this being covered in China? And then does an impression for, like, that's not even a good joke. Not that I'm like, there are some racist jokes that can be good, but like, that's not, like, that's just being racist.
Yeah, it's just dumb shit. And I don't know, like, that's the thing, right? Like, I'm trying to paint the picture of this person as, like, somebody who did, like, a lot of good things and has probably donated over $100 million to charity, and also has, like, made, like, really bad, like, racist jokes. Like, in the next episode, I'll talk about some other stuff. Like, she supports, like, Autism Speaks, which is a bad organization.
Yeah.
And just, like, stuff like that, where I don't think that any of these, I don't want to call them indiscretions, because that makes it sound like that's like little, but I don't want any of the like bad things that she has done to mean like, and so it's okay that as a collective culture, we decided to just shit on this person entirely.
Right. Well, I mean, like, you and I have famously taken the stance that, like, it's just sort of like, why are we, you know, using people's appearance as, like, the main way that we're, like, dunking on people who are bad? And I think there's something to be, I've been thinking a lot about that, like, Variety spread where they took, like, the really close-up images of their faces.
So awesome.
And I'm like, actually, Well, it's so awesome, but I feel like it's awesome to me for different reasons than it's awesome to some people online. Like,
I know.
it's awesome to me because it's like they were mandated to do this shoot and they did it in the most fucked up way possible as just such a middle finger to the fucking administration.
Yeah.
I'm less interested in like commenting on the intricacies of what Caroline Levitt looks like. And it's like, whatever, she's my age and she looks much older than me, and like that is a result of the Mar-a-Lago face thing that we have talked about at length on this podcast. And so I don't think it's wrong to point that out. But like that to me, like the point of that photo shoot was not to be like, look how ugly these people are, but it's just to be like a giant fuck you by taking the most unflattering pictures of them that they could possibly take.
Well, right, like having the pictures, like I think it was the like JD Vance one, right, where he's like in front of like a power outlet, like just I think it's such a creative and interesting shoot and really really cool. But a lot of people were like, haha, it is funny because they are ugly, or like they do the fucking thing that I always hate is people are like, this is how you age when you're unproblematic, and it's like, no, like this is how you age when you have a lot of money, like, or like, it's like one of the first things we teach fucking children is don't judge a book by its cover. But like we actually have people out here who are like, if you're a good person you will look beautiful on the outside, and it's like, don't do that.
Yeah in any case. So yeah, I think it's like it's just Rosie O'Donnell being fat is not the most interesting thing to criticize her about. I also didn't she wasn't when she was on The View she also did some shit where she was like low key kind of a Bush did 9/11 guy.
She post 9/11 made some comments that were jet fuel can't melt steel beams adjacent.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I mean she talked a lot. I mean she made some very aggressive remarks about like, hey, like we're saying that like, you know, they killed all the people in 9/11, but like now we've killed 650,000 Iraqis. That's really bad. And the way she said it was really extreme. I think she like called American soldiers terrorists, which is a tricky thing to do in a post 9/11 climate. And so I get what people were like, oh, holy shit. Okay, this person is saying this on daytime TV. And like, do I think that Dick Cheney's interest in oil in the Middle East had nothing to do with the conflict in the Middle East? Of course not. But she got into some straight up like George W. Bush orchestrated the attacks on 9/11 in order to get us into and it's like, that's crazy town.
You know who else had views like that and Disney completely scrubbed it from the public record?
Who?
Mark Ruffalo. I have such a fucking distinct memory of when I was a kid before Mark Ruffalo was in the MCU, because I was always in love with him. I would read the political stuff he had commented on, like the fracking stuff, and then he literally would be like, guys, we don't know everything about 9/11. Like, there's stuff they're not telling us. And then as soon as he got in the MCU, you cannot find a trace of it anywhere. And I promise, guys, it's not in my head. I am not. The RFK brainworm is not implanting this memory in me. Mark Ruffalo did think that there was stuff about 9/11 that they weren't telling us.
I mean, I'm a little bit of a Kennedy assassination conspiracy theorist, so I can't talk too much shit, but.
So speaking of the great politics of the United States, let's talk about the feud between Donald Trump and Rosie O'Donnell. So
the first feud one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So essentially, the very first kind of scandalous feud between them that sparks the flame of Donald Trump being like, fuck this bitch, is over a controversy about Tara Conner, who was a Miss USA winner.
Okay.
Tara Conner won Miss USA 2006 at the age of 26. Fun fact, she represented the state of Kentucky and was the first woman from Kentucky to win Miss USA.
Okay.
Immediately after winning the pageant, Conner moves into a Trump Place apartment that she shares with the other title holders, Miss Universe 2006 and Miss Teen USA 2006. And so basically she's living in New York City in this really fancy apartment with these other girls, and controversy starts to come out because Tara Conner is just partying hard. Like, she's doing drugs, she's having sex with guys, she's taking them to the Trump apartment. Yeah, gasp, right?
A 26-year-old woman doing drugs and having sex in New York? I'm scandalized.
Yeah, but she was, a pageant winner from Kentucky.
Audience, I was not scandalized.
And so there's a TMZ article that comes out saying that she might get dethroned. And
well, that happened to that girl who had sex on Love Island.
Mhm.
She got stripped of her Miss Great Britain title.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, they try to hold the pageant winners to a quote-unquote higher standard. And so...
And having sex is immoral. So we all know that.
We all do know that. So, a December 16th, 2006 edition of the New York Daily News reports that Connor had tested positive for cocaine, had kissed the Miss Teen USA, Katie Blair, in public, and it's...
How old is this teenager?
She won Miss Teen USA, but it was 2006, so let me see how old she was. I don't know anything about Miss Teen. Not a minor. Let's see. Katie Blair, she was born in... Why don't they have a birthday? Oh, okay.
1987, so she would have been 19 in 2006.
So she was Miss Barely.
She's from Montana! Okay, shout out Katie Blair, she's from Montana!
Hey, we get Kentucky and Montana representation here.
Yee
yee. So basically, the New York Daily News reports that...
Oh, and she was also the first person from the state of Montana to win a major pageant title.
Yes, just like Kentucky.
Wow.
Girls supporting girls.
Huh.
So anyway, the New York Daily News reports that Tara Connor had tested positive for cocaine, had given Katie Blair a kiss in public, had snuck men into the Trump Place apartment. There's a quote from a New York City nightlife veteran that says... She really is a small-town girl. She just went wild when she came into the city. Tara just couldn't handle herself. They were sneaking those guys in and out of that apartment.
Sure.
Trump does a press conference and says that Tara Connor would not be dethroned. He says that he's always been a believer in second chances.
Sure.
During that press conference, Connor declined to comment on the allegations about the drug use. She says that she's not an alcoholic, but she acknowledges that she made some mistakes, and then immediately enters a treatment center. And essentially, so I'll sort of bookend, this story, and then I'll talk about Rosie O'Donnell's comments. So basically, Tara Connor goes to rehab. She gets out in February 2007, and then she admits publicly, I abused cocaine. And then the sort of where is she now is that now she's a public advocacy consultant for the same rehab center that treated her, and she basically is a recovery advocate.
Cool. I was also gonna say, before we go back to Rosie O'Donnell, when you first said Tara Connor, I was like, Sarah Connor? And then I was like, no, that's a character from the Terminator.
Yeah. She did not. Yeah, she's not gonna give birth to John Connor, who will save the human race.
Yeah.
So Unless. So, essentially, O'Donnell criticizes Donald Trump for holding this press conference because, Tara Connor violated the pageant guidelines, and she accuses Donald Trump of using the scandal to generate publicity for the Miss USA pageant, and by announcing that he's giving her a second chance. She's basically you're just doing this as a cash grab, there's this controversy that this Miss USA is going to be dethroned, and instead of just quietly dethroning her and putting another girl in her place, you're doing this big press conference and drawing attention, and it's just a weird cash grab.
Or also not dethroning her, because who gives a shit?
Yeah. O'Donnell then comments that due to Trump's multiple marital affairs and his questionable business bankruptcies, that he's not a moral authority for young people in America. And she said, quote, left the first wife, had an affair. Left the second wife, had an affair. But he's the moral compass for 20-year-olds in America. Trump gets mad at this. So he goes on a vicious mass media blitz in which he appears on television shows and either in person or by phone and threatens to sue Rosie O'Donnell. Reader, he never sues Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh, yeah, because what would he be able to sue on? He can't sue for defamation. That shit's all true.
Exactly.
I do think, by the way, I do think Rosie O'Donnell is kind of wilding out here. This is a lot, but I also don't realize, maybe I just don't know how big of a deal this was in 2006, but I'm is this worth screaming at him this much about this? But whatever, who gives a shit? It's Donald Trump. I'm not gonna feel bad for him.
Exactly. Donald Trump calls her names. He says that he would send one of my friends to go pick up your girlfriend, and I think it would be easy. Unclear to me what that means, whether that's
calling her girlfriend a fake lesbian, basically, and that she would fuck a man over Rosie, I guess.
Yeah. And then the sort of, I guess, nail in the coffin is that he claims that Barbara Walters regretted hiring her. Rosie O'Donnell had worked with Barbara Walters, and basically Walters was now in this...
Well, Walters created The View.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so he said that Barbara Walters regretted hiring her for The View, and basically Barbara Walters is now weirdly in the middle because she's like kind of a social acquaintance of Trump, and she is obviously a like social acquaintance of Rosie O'Donnell, and Rosie O'Donnell is like, Barbara Walters, you're not defending me, and essentially there's apparently a confrontation that happens between the two of them in a dressing room.
Tell me quickly. Oh, and that's not how the confrontation goes. I was gonna sing the confrontation from Les Mis and then realized I was singing a completely different song.
One quote that Rosie O'Donnell had about kind of this whole situation was she said, "I had pain and hurt and rejection. Sometimes my emotions overwhelm me. Sometimes I get flooded." And that was basically the start of this feud between Rosie O'Donnell and Donald Trump that started in 2006 and basically extended in person, in media, on social media, to this very day. And that is where I'm going to leave us for the end of this episode.
Wow. I love this. Isn't there a Ryan Murphy thing that's like feuds?
Oh
Isn't
my
that, like,
god.
one of his
Could
series?
you imagine a feud Rosie O'Donnell Donald Trump series?
I'm not the biggest fan of recent things that Ryan Murphy has put out, but
the whole first
that could
episode
be
would be like the Tara Connor scandal, right?
Yeah.
And then it would end with the actress playing Rosie O'Donnell like going on The View or whatever and saying her piece. And then it would show the actor playing Donald Trump just like fuming.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Get Sebastian Stan back in there. Get him back in there. Round 2.
Ryan Murphy at gmail.com. Hello, it's Aubrey again.
And so is this where people start like really being mean to her in the media? Is that sort of what we're going to get into next time?
Yeah, I think that it had already... I think that the flames had already been fanned, but I think that it's at this point, and this is why I decided to cut it off here, where you really start to see more haters than lovers of Rosie O'Donnell.
Okay, cool. Wow, what an adventure we've been on today, you know? Ultimately an episode about death.
Ultimately about death, school shootings, the death of America, really.
The death of Barbara Walters.
Yeah, well... I guess it's time to go. I
think what's so interesting here, Aubrey, is that you haven't mentioned the TV show she was on with John Goodman even once. Fuck! That's Roseanne Barr again! No! It's John Goodman on that show, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank God.
I loved Roseanne because it was just like blue collar white trash family.
Just like Joe Rogan's stand-up.
Blue comedy.
I was gonna be like, was John Goodman on the blue collar comedy tour?
No, he wasn't.
No. But that's, hey, something to talk about at some point. The blue collar comedy tour and its chokehold that had on American life.
You know that their like first special was shot in Arizona?
No way!
Yeah. Like, Ron White's first joke is about flying into the Flagstaff airport.
Flagstaff? Why the fuck was he flying into the Flagstaff airport?
I don't know.
Oh my god. Ron White, that literally, like, shot me back into my chair, because I was like, Ron White's a name I haven't heard in years.
Ron White was the one I thought was hot when I was a kid.
That's not surprising, Aubrey.
Well.
Have a question or a topic that you would like for us to discuss? Send us an email at informedattraction@gmail.com.